Hold on. Fuck, that was terrible. I feel bad now for saying all this. I feel bad for talking about these people's bodies. So I'm going to talk more about the film. Shit, that's a terrible segue.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Time to die!
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to sell the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, first I want to thank you for being here. I know you're under the weather. I appreciate you going to be here. This is going to be a high energy one for me. Gene, I'm fired up and coming in. I got a little Captain Morgan in me. Excited for the film, but also a little bit nervous because normally we review a movie. Who cares? Good, bad, indifferent. I have skin in the game for this one, Gene. Besides talking it up, I was part of the production.
I appreciate that, Big D. I'm feeling okay. I was really worried because people kept asking me at work if it was the norovirus, and I didn't know what that was. So I had to look it up. Also known as the winter diarrhea.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you, I will take a respiratory illness, non-fatal, like a minor respiratory, any day over anything gastrointestinal. Diarrhea, stomach cramp, shit like that. Nausea, no thank you. Not being able to breathe, having a little bit of coughing, sore throat, it's nothing.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to leave the house. If there's a chance of explosive diarrhea, it really would control your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas with this, I can just go and cough on everybody. It's fine.
Right, exactly. But they're going to be like, hey, Gene's coughing. But nobody's going to be like, holy, did you see Gene shit his pants? I can't. He was at the whiteboard and he just shit his pants.
That's true.
That would affect it. Yeah, that would live with you. You'd have to change jobs if that was
a good point.
Yeah, so let's get to tonight's movie, Gene. I'm ready. I'm fired up. And I've talked about this movie. And one of our listeners was kind enough, Ronnie from Kentucky, Louisville. I guess he had enough of hearing me talk about it, or he was just excited to maybe get a few more viewers to go back and watch it. But it is the Tromaville 1986 science fiction classic horror, Class of Nuke 'Em High. And he was kind enough to call in with a voicemail, which you know we love, so we can hear him describe in his own words why he did this for me and why he chose to expose the world to more Tromaville.
What's up, Shat Crew? This is Ronnie from Louisville, Kentucky, and I am commissioning the movie Class of Nuke 'Em High. Now, I've actually never seen this movie.
Yes.
So you might be wondering, okay, Ronnie, why are you commissioning a movie that you've never seen before? Well, it's because our very own Big D is in it. Yes! I just learned this recently. I went back and listened to some older episodes, and in the episode of Blade Runner, at the very end, Big D drops the little nugget that he was in this movie when he was 8 years old, and it was at the end of it. So, and that Blade Runner episode was 7 years ago or so? So I can't believe that nobody has commissioned this movie in 7 years. So I'm very excited to be the one to do it. Big D, this is my gift to you, my friend. You finally get to review the movie you were in. And this is also my gift to Eugene and Ash, because now you get to review your boys' acting skills. Now, this movie does look terrible, but I don't know. I've never seen it. But regardless, I feel like it's going to be a great time. I'm a big fan of you guys. Keep up the great work. If you ever find yourself in Louisville, Kentucky, please reach out to your boy here. I've got a house full of bourbon, and it's an open bar for you guys. All right. Much love. Keep it up. Peace out.
Fuck, I'm ready. I've already forgotten about the podcast. I want to go to Ronnie's and have some bourbon.
Yeah, Ronnie, I find myself in Louisville all the time, so you might regret that invite. I'm always out there at Knock Bar, at Whirling Tiger. My friends who run the Chop Top Challenge are based in Louisville, and the Bourbon Bandits, who are now retired, but the Moped Gang, that was my favorite moped gang to hang out with out there in Louisville. So I'm well acquainted with the area. Sarah and I have at least one, possibly two trips planned out this year. We're thinking about coming during Thunder or in July. Maybe we'll be out there. I'll definitely get in touch. And if I come through there on the Chop Top Challenge, I'll let you know. But the people of Louisville are fantastic. It is an underrated city. And Big D, I don't know if you saw the photos, but Louisville got snow this year, and it was absolutely beautiful in Old Louisville.
Yes, it's another reason to go out there, and I would love to go back. But yeah, Ronnie, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And if I said I was 8, doing the math, that's off. I was probably 12, but I'm glad you could bring me back to a very special weekend. I'm excited to share my memories.
Well, Class of Nuke Em High, as you said, Big D, is a 1986 sci-fi horror comedy produced and distributed by Troma Entertainment, directed by Richard W. Haines and Lloyd Kaufman. The film follows a high school impacted by radioactive drugs obtained from a nearby nuclear power plant. So, Big D, knowing that you have history with this movie, knowing that you're in the movie, I think by all means you should go first.
Yes, I think I need to add now thespian on my little bio on all of our social media, besides podcaster. Yes, I grew up in the 80s and I loved slasher films. I loved most horror of the time, but I was never a big trauma fan. Stuff like that, I really didn't get the humor. I wanted to be scared. So I had never seen any of that, but I had seen Class of Nuke Em High because of what happened to me in 86. My older sister had found a flyer that they said they're going to be filming something. And if you wanted to show up, you could be an extra in a movie and you would get possibly something as payment. So it was like a little mystery. So the kids all got together. They were going to go, and I couldn't go alone because I was too young at that point. So my mother made my sister take me to Rhinebeck in Mamaroneck, New York. I think it's 300 Hornage Road is the address. Little did I know, Gene, that this cold Saturday would become such a memory of my life. I probably wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for my mother forcing me to go, and I would have missed out on something that surprisingly has lived on in my memories this many years later. I mean, we're going on now 40 years. So it's great to go back and watch it. And regardless of how the movie is, the fun memories I have, and it is a time capsule that I've shared with many people. I'm glad I could share it with the listeners. And Gene, I'm glad I could share it with you.
Big D, I'm glad you brought up the fact that it was cold, because getting to Ronnie's point on your acting as a child, I was like, is he acting cold or was it actually very cold out there? You look like a frozen little chubster.
I was a young boy finding my way. And to see these adult actors scantily clad walking around, it was an arousing, it was just a sense of emotions, physically cold. My libido was aroused. I was hot inside. It was a lot. There's people making out. It was a great weekend to be a boy exploring life.
You just described me watching this movie for the first time last night. Prior to Class of Nuke Em High, I'd only seen 2 Troma movies before. There was The Toxic Avenger, which I think is everybody's entry into Troma. And when I was a kid, it was broadcast on TV. They edited it, but it was out there on TV. You could flip to channel 45 late at night and it would be on. The other one, which a lot of people oddly have not seen, done by the creators of South Park, was Cannibal the Musical, which I own on DVD, and it's absolutely fantastic. Culturally, however, Troma feels like it was everywhere in my youth. Although I hadn't seen movies like Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD, or Tromeo and Juliet, kids talked about them. You saw the posters, you saw the t-shirts. So I knew that it all existed, and I loved this little world that they'd created. This is my first time seeing Class Nuke 'Em High, and your incredible performance.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD, that looks fabulous.
People, if you're interested in that too, that falls right into our wheelhouse. So Sergeant Kabuki Man is on the table, Ronnie.
Definitely.
Let's hit the trailer.
Welcome to Tromaville High, an average American high school with one exception. It's located only 1 mile away from a nuclear power plant. They said it was 100% safe. But they were wrong.
There's no danger, Governor. We have the situation well in hand.
Welcome to the class of Nuke Em High.
We're the youth of today.
Yes, at Nuke Em High, anything can happen. And does. The class of Nuke Em High, where you'll learn the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and radiation. The class of Nuke 'Em High. Rated R.
A nuclear accident at a power plant near Tromaville High School is covered up by plant owner Mr. Paley, who does not want the facility shut down by the Safety Commission. The accident causes a radioactive water leak that kills a student named Dewey. A gang called the Cretans, who were originally part of the Honor Society, torments the school after being turned into violent psychopaths by the runoff from the plant. The Cretans create a joint from a radioactive marijuana plant located in the yard of the nuclear plant and sell it to a kid named Eddie for $10.
I owned this movie. When iTunes had HD films come out, this was one of the first movies that I purchased. But sadly, in like the last 20 years since I've had a copy of it, I have never watched the entire film all the way through. I always go to the very end because it's usually friends and family are over, we're drinking, and people start joking. I'll be like, yeah, you know, my acting debut. And people be like, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? I was like, oh, yeah, you know, I was in a movie in high school. And they're like, shut up. And I'll watch the last 15, 30 seconds of the film. And that's what I remember going back to. I never watched the entire movie. And what gets burned into my head is from the moment where they say, you know, the school is closed for remodeling. And then in kicks the theme song. It is burned into my head. I hear the song. I go back there. And I may be biased here, Gene, but the song, the theme to Class of Nuke 'Em High, it's a banger. Mm-hmm. It's got like a punk vibe. It screams 80s cheap movie about like rebellious kids. The lyrics, normally we would complain about how on point they are and how low talent they are that they were written, but it is perfect. And when I hear that song, it just brings me back and brings me joy.
Totally agree. I know you hate when the lyrics are about the movie itself. This song does that, but it's catchy. It rules. And immediately when I heard the song during the opening credits, I started paying attention to the credits to see who did this. And I noticed in the mix, there's Biohazard. Now, they didn't do that song, but Biohazard did some of the music on the soundtrack, all of the like nightmare scenes. That was all Biohazard. Yes, Biohazard of Punishment fame did music on the Class of Nuke 'Em High soundtrack. They also, I discovered, were on the Judgment Night soundtrack just 7 years later.
No, and I'm glad that's a song. It was, I'm not going to say high production, but it was quality. You got some brass, you got the dun, 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 dun. It's high energy. It's a catchy hook. And I'm glad the music is there because I'm watching this on my brand new, like HD TV. Great for the first time. I can see the films and up comes, it's not even letterbox, Gene. It is the best transfer I think they could have at the time. It is muddy. It is definitely not a high quality film. And the song is kicking. It's good. We get to meet the Cretans, who are going to be the intro into the spill at the nuclear power plant. And they're a hodgepodge. It's a mixed group of, you know, they're supposed to be like misfits. The toxic sludge is starting to change them. Genetically, they're starting to act out. But there's no cohesive like string that kind of puts them together. You got a guy Gonzo. He's kind of like a caveman, but they gave him gray skin. He's got a big hook, like a ring in his nose and his lip. He's got a giant bone. He walks around with menacing people. He's got striped pants and like weird tattoos. Then you have the main guy, Spike. And Spike's like the head guy. He's got like a leather jacket with no sleeves. He's, basically a normal guy. Then there's another random guy. I think his name is, what's his name? Spud. Spud's the guy with the unicorn spike, a long Rapunzel blonde, like hair behind his back. There's a girl on a motorcycle with the side of her head shaved, a Hitler mustache, a giant scar. It's a weird group that doesn't seem to be cohesive. It's almost as if they gave the costume designer, like Halloween, they said, go to the store and get a mask. He spent $20 for Shatner, spray painted it. You've got like Hollywood history. They went to Caldors or Woolworths and they got these outfits. It didn't matter. It was chaotic. I wish instead they had maybe given each of these actors $100, said, sit down, create a backstory, go get your own outfit. And it would have fit, because it's going back now, it was a kind of a bit of a mess.
Hard disagree on this one, Big D. I mean, they had matching jackets. I don't know what more you want, but much like the baseball Furies from the Warriors or Cobra Kai, the Cretans, they are unmistakable. These costumes are unmistakable. If I saw Cretans show up to a Halloween party, I would absolutely lose my shit if people were dressed up like them. I would want to hang out with those people because they did the Cretans. I don't know exactly what they were. Even better, they don't wear uniforms like gangs in other movies. This movie made me realize that in other movies, the bad guys wear the same fucking outfit every day. They don't change it up. Here, the Cretans have different looks for different days, actual wardrobes, like real people. Spike doesn't have the hair every single day. Gonzo some days has a hat, some days he doesn't. He's changing it up, and I appreciate that.
Was Pete the
Pete was the one with titties.
Okay, Pete was the one with titties.
Yeah.
The girlfriend was Taru.
Taru was the one in the basement running like the sex dungeon.
Okay, and
with the red hair.
And was Muffy Hitler?
I thought Muffy was the one that was stomping on people's dicks.
That's who it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, now we got them all straight. We got them all straight.
Well, it's going to be a hard pivot, Big D, but I want to talk about accuracy in this film. I know Class of Nuke Em High, they're not going for accuracy, right, in their storytelling. But I was sort of surprised knowing their audience, Troma knowing that the kids that are going to go see their movie are going to be high school kids, maybe college kids, probably potheads. And they're trying to convince a theater full of Troma fans that you could just go to the nuclear power plant, grab a marijuana plant, roll it into a joint, and smoke it same day. Listeners, if you don't have experience with the devil's lettuce, that is not how it works. Okay. Thanks to my friendship with the King Bee, who used to grow his own, like from farm to table, he would make it. I know that weed has to be harvested, and then it has to be dried, and then it has to be cured before you can process it, roll into a joint, and smoke it. So that's a lot of work for the Cretans. I don't know if these guys are really up to the task. And beyond that, after all that, they're only charging $10, which in 1986, like weed was not easy to get in 1986 if you're living if you're going to a high school in New Jersey, okay? Provided this was good weed, I don't think they were overcharging. I think the Cretans were running a legitimate operation.
No, but I think you're taking into account now that we have access to endless information. I remember as a kid, I saw a poster of a pot leaf, and I recognized that in my yard, we had a Japanese maple, and the leaves look super similar. So I may have been 8, 9 years old. I was convinced that we had a giant pot tree in my yard, and I collected up leaves, brought them to school to show them to other kids. So I would have believed in this movie probably that was what you did, that you smoked it. Nobody, unless you knew somebody who was growing, smoking, or selling, I don't think the average kid knew.
Yeah, but you were the kid in the movie, not the kid they made the movie for. The kid that made this movie for would know where pot comes from And what good pot is.
Probably the people on set would have been smoking it. So you can't have that prop. There's no way it lasts.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the next point of accuracy I want to talk about was nuclear power plants. Now, close your eyes, think back to the 80s and what nuclear power plants were all about. This was a very different time when it came to nuclear power. And this happens to be a topic that's near and dear to my heart. When I was 8 years old, Palo Verde nuclear power plant went online in the desert outside of Phoenix. It's pretty far from us because it doesn't, as you can imagine, in the desert, like it doesn't have a body of water next to it. So shit going wrong at Palo Verde would be real bad, real fast. So we're pretty far away from it. But since then, 1988, Palo Verde has become the biggest energy producer of all nuclear power plants in the country. It is huge. But again, we're talking 1980s here. The United States had the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident in 1979. 1986, the Soviets had Chernobyl. Okay. So that's when this movie came out. So people were really, really freaked out about living near nuclear power plants and what could go wrong. My family, on the other hand, was pro-nuke, thanks to my cousin who was studying nuclear engineering, Pej. So I, along with him, became members of the American Nuclear Society. And as a preteen, I was actually involved in campaigns to reassure people of nuclear power plant safety. I would carry around this little, like what looked like it was a little uranium pellet. And he would show people, did you know that this could make as much energy as an entire freight car of coal? And I had a T-shirt that had a little cartoon with a guy that says, don't be afraid to walk right up to the nuclear power plant. It's perfectly safe. But what startled me about this movie was how close the nuclear power plant is to the high school. It's like right in the background.
I don't even know where to start here.
Yeah.
First of all, you are that kid. I didn't think that kid. Where did you get the initiative? You couldn't get me out from behind the TV on a Saturday. I wasn't wearing like some kind of slogan T-shirt and carrying around a little like stick and wood ball and showing people how fusion and fission works. What prompted you to do that?
I've just always loved being involved, Big D. Like being a part of something. Even when I was 12. You were a part of something when you were 12?
Nothing like on a grand scale like that. I wasn't trying to change the world. I admire that. I mean, it's. Yeah. I don't think. I mean, I think I raised money for Hands Across America or shit like that. But I wasn't really going to be driven by any kind of a cause. I'm more motivated now, like when Emma raises money for the American Heart Association. But as a kid, well, what the hell did I know? But in '86, this came out in the end of the year. Early on, you said in '86, Chernobyl happened. People freaked the fuck out. Mm-hmm. I remember how people were nervous. 3 Mile Island. That's in the middle of Pennsylvania. There's a lot of people around that. I imagine Palo Verde is out in the middle of the fucking desert, right?
Yeah, it's out there, yeah.
Yeah, so how do they cool it, first of all? Is there like a river or stream?
They have water tanks, and then they recycle the water. So basically they go to evaporation tanks, and then they like reclaim it, and then they bring it back through. I mean, it has some water coming in as well, but you're right, Big D. Most nuclear power plants, guys, this is the scary part, right? They got to be near a body of water, either the ocean or like a giant ass river or something, which, as you can imagine, as you see in this movie, not entirely a great idea.
No, you wouldn't want to put a nuclear reactor on the edge of a coastline that's susceptible to earthquakes and tsunamis.
No. Who would do that?
No, and then you don't want to put the diesel generators lower in the building where a surge of water could knock them out. That would be a bad idea.
Oh my gosh.
Really bad idea.
Yeah, catastrophic, I imagine.
But I think today, watching this, we're so much smarter because of our access to information. I didn't know about how meltdowns happen. I didn't know any of this information. So on screen, maybe toxic waste. If you were exposed to it, you become some kind of mutant. You didn't know what it would look like. You didn't know how it would affect you. So it was a plausible plot device that it might cause these kids to mutate. Not exactly the way they did, but it just fed off that fear that people had that somewhere in their backyard was a nuclear power plant that could cause them to have these mutations that were irreversible. So it probably scared the parents as much as the kids.
At his indoor bikini beach party that night, Eddie pressures his friend Warren and Warren's girlfriend Chrissy into smoking the radioactive joint. The mutated drug has potent aphrodisiac effects, leading to Warren and Chrissy having sex in Eddie's loft and experiencing disturbing nightmares. Chrissy discovers she is pregnant and spits out a small creature into a nearby toilet. The creature travels through the water pipes and lands in a barrel filled with radioactive waste, mutating into a bigger creature that kills a nuclear worker investigating the school's basement.
So we've got the gang of mutants, the group of friends that we're going to follow here for probably a majority of our audience has never seen this, is Warren and Chrissy, boyfriend and girlfriend. They're kind of the cool couple as it could be, but they're nice. They're the popular kids. They're not bullying anyone. And their relationship is like something we haven't seen in a long time. They are actually like innocent kids. They're in love. Their relationship belongs in a completely different movie. They are virgins. They're worried about the other one being nervous, and they're afraid to consummate their relationship. And in a movie that has no character analysis, we don't get any development, any arc. Nobody changes from the beginning to the end. The movie decided to create an elaborate backstory for Warren and Chrissy's relationship that appears out of nowhere, and it was gloriously unexpected. So they get high on the atomic weed, on the atomic high, the toxic devil's lettuce. So they smoke, they get high, they have sex, they go home, and they each independently start having this trippy, drug-induced wet dream of each other. He has a giant erection. She's like her stomach is growing larger. And the movie, to fit in with this over the top, on the side, you start seeing their nightstands in their bedrooms. They each have like an 8x10 framed photo of each other with all of these elaborate boyfriend-girlfriend shots. Who does this, Gene? In real life, nobody has a shrine to each other on their nightstands as a kid. But in this movie where they're both having atomic wet dreams, it's going black and white, the colors reverting, they're having like horrible body. It looks like Cronenberg's Monster or whatever those creatures are coming out. And there on the nightstands is this precious little like memorabilia of love that is completely romantic, completely authentic, and completely out of place for this film.
It was disturbing, to say the least, but these two remind me so much of Brad and Janet in Rocky Horror Picture Show. They're just two uptight kids trying to do the right thing, but ultimately they surrender to the sin around them and they find their sexual liberation in the process. It made sense to me because Troma movies are not written by mainstream straight-laced people, right? They're written by cultural outsiders. They're weird from the start. So it's fitting that if you make the protagonist this clean-cut couple, they're going to not just be wholesome, they're going to be over-the-top wholesome, you know, with a framed headshot of your girlfriend on your nightstand. That makes perfect sense for these characters.
Yeah, they do. And like, I loved horror movies. So I thought in my mind, going back all this time, that this was just a bad horror movie. But that's not the case. And even now, I don't know that it's my like cup of tea. I don't know that I would actually go out there other than maybe Kabuki NYPD and go see because I think that's funny. The movie, this isn't trying to scare anyone. As a kid, I thought it was. Here, they're trying to make people laugh, maybe cringe. It's supposed to be something funny and awkward. They're embracing the fact that it's going to be bad. It's not a horror movie that happens to be funny. The comedy is very intentional. You have a group of teen biker mutants and barrels of radioactive goo. The movie's telling you, hey, this is going to be camp. We're going to go all in. It's like the filmmaker said, I dare you to take this seriously. Dick Ebert, I dare you to pick this apart like some of the other films you've thought way too much about. And I think that would be a mistake. You got to just let yourself go. The Troma movies, they're all like this. They're all having fun. They found their niche. We're not going to try to be the best film. We're not going to try to do the best special effects. They mix in farts. They mix in monsters that spit out name tags. It's a lot of gags. It's not by accident. It's all on purpose. And there's something genuine about it. There's something genuine that I know I'm going to say, oh, I was there. I was only there as an extra in that end scene. But I tell you, from what I saw, it looked like everyone on set was having a hell of a lot of fun making this movie.
Clearly, they're not trying to scare anybody, as you said. Like, it's supposed to make you laugh. It's supposed to make you sit back and go, holy shit, did they just do that? I thought they went harder on the effects than they needed to, right? The effects are pretty damn good because they focus on what people want to see. Like, imagine if they tried to make Chrissy give birth to this giant monster. It's going to look terrible. So you want to make a convincing monster birth? Cool. Just have the chick spit up this green turd and have it flop into the toilet. It's disturbing. It looks fucking gross. You can't make a good toxic meltdown? Okay. You just get Dewey to have some like frothing green goo coming out of his mouth. But for extra effect, you shoot some out of his ears. After seeing The Toxic Avenger, these effects were way better than I expected. And I thought they got exactly what they were going for.
Yeah, they were smart. They used the budget wisely. They filmed in spooky places. There's a lot of junkyards. There's a lot of abandoned films. There's a lot of like construction sites. They're doing what they can. And the special effects, I think there's the one scene I really enjoy, Gene, is where Warren is like hulking out. He's transforming. He's in an alleyway and his head is swelling and he's got a lot of goo like oozing down, and he jams his hand down the throat of the unicorn guy. I forget what the hell his name was. Some of it's good, moments of shockingly quality special effects. And then they're mixed in with some violence that isn't exactly the typical you would expect in a horror movie. There's no stabbing. There's a lot of shooting at people. There's some laser beams. But more, Gene, the violence is a lot of like crotch grabbing. Now, we normally get like kicks to the crotches. We normally get a couple maybe punch to the balls, some jokes about it. This movie goes all in. It's like Troma said, this needs to be part of the plot. Everyone has to kick, stomp, or grab a dick. You got to squeeze some balls. And I don't remember this being such an 80s thing, but this gang, it happens not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. It happens, Gene, to everyone. You could be young, you could be old, you could be on the faculty, you could be a guy, you could be a girl, and your crotch is going to get stomped, kicked, and like you said, ground in with high heels. There's going to be some kind of ooze on it. There was a fetish here for groins that the movie was almost winking at us, being like, yeah, you guys better cover your balls. We're going to get you too.
I think you're onto something here. All the stuff we're talking about builds up to one conclusion, which is they want a reaction. That's the number one purpose of a Troma picture. They want a reaction. And what's going to get a reaction from me? Mm-hmm. Seeing balls get stomped and grabbed and hit. Because I'll tell you, when they grab dudes' dicks in this movie, I kind of sat back a little bit. When the guy's getting his dicks ground into by a high heel, I kind of felt that a little bit. And there's a reason, Big D, why groin shots are illegal in mixed martial arts, right? They hurt a fucking lot and they could do serious damage. In Krav, we learn groin kicks as level 1 material, right? You're learning your basics, how to get in a fighting stance, how to do straight punches, and how to wreck someone's dick. In jiu-jitsu, groin contact, perfectly legal. Cups, forbidden. Guess what happens to my dick on a regular basis? Painful things. This movie, it is a hormonally charged shit show. Of course, they're going to be focusing on dicks. Dicks are going to be front and center.
There's even Gonzo has a bicycle seat as a cup, and he'll randomly start stroking the bicycle seat. But Gene, I have to ask this, okay? Technically, what is the appropriate way to do a groin strike? Do you want to like hit the balls to the side so they go in between your fist and the thigh? Do you want to push them back? Do you want to hit them up into the shaft? Our listeners want to know.
Are you talking about with the hand or with the leg?
We'll go with both. Please, what's the appropriate strike?
So with a groin kick, this is the great part. Legs are a funnel. So if you think about it, any guy with 2 legs, those legs form a funnel that goes up to the dick.
Like a V.
Like a V, exactly. So even if you're off target, as long as you're aiming to go through his body and to his head, you're going to find the dick in there. And so for that, what you want to do is basically the kick should come with your knee first. Your knee goes toward the target, and then the leg flicks out like you're trying to get dog shit off the end of your shoe. That is the motion that you want, a whipping motion. Ooh. And that's going to wreck a dick. With your hand, it's also a whipping motion. And what you want to do is you want to have your hand loose. So you're not making a fist. You want it loose like a big slappy thing. And then what you're doing is you're whipping again, elbow toward the target, and the hand does a whipping motion from the elbow down. And that's going to cause the most damage, but also creates the biggest surface area because it might be a small dick, might be hard to find. You want to get it. And the cool thing, guys, if you're out there and you're thinking about groin strikes, they work pretty well on ladies too. They're sensitive in the same spots.
I was half expecting that the final like monster was going to come out, and because he uses that like 3-pronged claw to go into people's heads and to scratch people, that he was going to use that to do a groin grab. We'd see it from behind as he just pulled back and almost like would remove somebody's junk.
He was so into using his tail, though. Like almost to a fault.
No, I don't think that's your natural defense. He has that tail for a reason.
Tired of the Cretans' constant harassment, Warren kills 2 of them in a radiation-fueled rampage, but has no memory of the event once he comes to his senses. The Cretans get expelled from the school and assault the principal. They use the school's radiation alarm to cause an evacuation, barring the building and occupying it. In the process, the Cretans shoot and kill the principal's secretary. Capturing Chrissy as bait for Warren, the leader of the gang holds her hostage in the basement and plans to kill her in front of Warren, only to be interrupted by the now adult monster.
So you mentioned before, you said this is like a hormone-filled film. As a boy on set, I remember watching these actors. A lot of young, very pretty girls, a lot of skin, even on that cold day it was filming. And as the movie goes on, I'm reminiscing. I'm going back and I'm looking at Chrissy, and Chrissy's showing more and more skin. And I'm thinking, okay, she's looking pretty good. I remember tight little body. She's pretty. She's attractive. And just like all the 80s movies, Gene, we get to the nudity. Her top comes off. And I don't want to sound judgmental. We have a lot of lovely lady listeners, and I don't want to besmirch them or make it appear that Chrissy's body wasn't glorious in all of its natural being, but her areolas, Gene, and then the nipples were probably some of the largest I think we've seen. It threw me off a bit. It looked like the tip of an NFL football in front of the white band. It was large. It was protruding. It looked like a large dreidel. These breasts have to be mentioned in the pantheon of Shat. I don't know where they would fall on there, whether it was disturbing, but it changed my illusion. I didn't look at her the same. I felt bad. Did you notice these? Because I know you were a young child who had rather large nipples.
Still do.
Did you feel a kindred spirit with them? Did they stand out to you as something not normally that we would see in films?
You know, I got a bit of advice when I was younger and first becoming sexually active, and that was there's someone out there for everyone. A lot of dudes, Big D, they love puffy nips like that with the big areolas. It's an entire category on some porn sites. The King Bee, we'll go out to breakfast. He will go on about nips like that ad nauseum, like to the point where I get uncomfortable about a little bit. I think the cool thing is, and the reason why they stuck out to you, no pun intended, is that Nuke Em High built up Chrissy as the good girl. So we're like way interested in seeing her boobs, right? They built it up. And like you said, she's really, really pretty. But if it had been anybody else in the movie, we would have been like, yeah, okay, boobs, whatever. But it's Chrissy's boobs. These are like the boss boobs in the movie. I think you had built up in your head what you wanted them to look like. And we've all been there. Trust me. You meet a girl, you know, you're hanging out, wondering when you can see the boobs. And there's that moment where you're a little bit nervous. I had years ago a night, I think I might have told the story of the podcast before. I apologize if I have. The woman said she didn't want to take her bra off because she was really embarrassed about the way her breasts looked. And I was like, there's no, like, come on, like, I can't, like, there's no way that we're already in this situation. I'm not going to be like repulsed. And I wish the bra could have gone back on. Like, I mean, it's horrible of me to say. It's very superficial. But like at the moment I was like, no, she was right. I should have listened to her. But I don't think Chrissy's boobs were gross. They were just remarkable.
No, but I mean, yeah, just so we're fair and balanced, Gene, because I want us to be fair and balanced. I was also equally surprised at Warren's package that he decides at this college for like beach party that he's going to come out in that little Speedo. I don't know. First of all, Speedos I don't think are very attractive looking, but it was a lot like that Justin Timberlake video. I don't know if you saw that he was on. Oh, he recently went on tour and he was going to do some like aerial where he was going to fly around and sing. And when they lifted him up, the harness really like accentuated his crotch region. and the lack thereof of any discernible bulge. So it almost became a joke online. But here, like Warren again, I feel bad for judging people now. I really shouldn't have done that, but but I think maybe the ladies were equally saddened at poor Warren. And I bet you Warren gets some ribbings about his performance in this film. The Speedos, don't do it. Don't do it. But at 28 minutes and 17 seconds, it hit me. We had not had a single fade, transition, dissolve. Everything was a like hard cut, scene to scene, scene to scene, camera to camera. And at this moment, they chose right as the guys walk upstairs and they catch Warren and Chrissy. They're having sex. And I got to be honest with you, it was a weird point to pick in the movie to have that transition. But it's as if all of a sudden I realized, did the editors say, oh, shit, yeah, we totally forgot. We can do a fade. We can do a wipe. There's transitions. Because there was none of it to this point. And I was screaming, I wish somebody had like Windows Movie Maker, like 2021, because this would have been such a better film. It wasn't so harsh, the cuts in between scenes.
I thought they gave the movie a hectic energy that matched the storyline and the style that Troma wanted. Like shit is just happening. And I was continually excited to see the next crazy thing that would happen. I didn't want fades. I didn't want transitions. I just wanted them to throw things at me, which they did. That seemed more fun.
It was obvious that they had like one camera on set.
Sure.
Because the actor who's saying the dialogue would be looking straight at the camera. Then the camera would pivot to looking at the next actor who was going to talk. They would say it straight in. And it was almost as if they were like doing a relay race where it was like shot of Gene, shot of Big D, shot of Chrissy, shot of Warren, without any fades, without any cuts. I understand it's low budget, but it became visually disjointed. And I think I would have enjoyed it much more if they'd put a little time into making it a more fluid experience. And I know it's not that type of movie, but I couldn't be the only one who thought, hey, let's try to at least polish this turd a little bit.
Yeah, I just think this movie is not a slow burn. It's not a comfortable ride. It's not a luxury item. This is a firecracker of a movie. And it made me think of modern storytelling versus the 80s. The 80s were just a bit hopped up. And I was thinking about, The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, The Wire, Band of Brothers. We got all this prestige TV, by all means, of better quality than Class of Nuke 'Em High. We got motion picture quality on the small screen. And it allows the storylines and the characters to develop over several seasons instead of trying to tell their entire tale within 2 hours, right? Class of Nuke 'Em High, it's taking advantage of the fact that it doesn't have smooth transitions, that it is going at breakneck pace, that they are low budget and they are using a limited amount of cameras and limited amount of scenes. They're doing the opposite of what prestige TV is doing today. It's like they took a show like The X-Files or Stranger Things, and they're like, hey, we're going to tell a whole season story in about 85 minutes. Think about all the stories that happen, Big D, in this hyper-condensed narrative. You've got a nuclear plant accident. That's one story. You've got this strange monster that appears in the high school basement. Where'd that come from? You got a gang of honor students that turned into violent pushers. You've got a romance between Warren and Chrissy. You've got the whole bikini party. You've got Mr. Paley versus the press. These are entire episodes, right? That they churn out in like 2-minute bites. The transitions, would they have helped? Possibly. Were they necessary? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's true because you got the cover up, you got the entire plant, you got all of the text running around. And I think it was smart because they probably took the approach, let's film everything. I know there's tons of deleted scenes that I've watched today. So it probably gave them more flexibility. Shoot everything, and then at the end, string the story together. That way you would never, through editing, you could fix as long as you had the footage. So yeah, I bet you that it probably wouldn't have been a better film, but it gave them the option to guarantee they were going to get a full-length feature out of it. I think you're right. This was probably the best they could have done.
Love to hear it. Warren rushes into the school to save Chrissy and discovers the adult monster who kills every one of the Cretans. He zaps the creature with a laser from the physics laboratory as he and Chrissy flee the school. Mr. Paley enters the room before the school explodes, killing him and the creature. The students celebrate as the loudspeakers announce that the school will be shut down for remodeling. While reconstruction is taking place, another small creature appears, squirming through the remains of the destroyed school.
So I just want to explain how everything kind of went down. All the interior shots were filmed in New Jersey. What I was partaking in was all of the exterior shots of the single-story school with the nuclear plant added in the back. That was where my high school was, and they're filming. So we got to see the explosions and all the special effects that they were doing and the shooting of like cork boards and compressed air and the people running for their lives. But I did not get to see any of the special, like the monster bits. That would have been cool to see because the monster, it's in the basement. And if you haven't seen the film, like you mentioned earlier on, the premarital sex, their one night of lovemaking, they were high on the atomic weed, on the atomic high. Chrissy gets sick. She vomits up the embryo, which is like a slug. It's some kind of larva. It hisses at her, goes in the toilet, goes down into the basement where it gets into the sludge and it starts to grow. And finally, we get to see it at the end. And this monster, Gene, is much better than this movie deserves. It looks pretty good. You see just enough of it. It's got spines like a porcupine. It's oozing goo. It's got teeth. The lights are flashing. It's gross. You see it and it looks intimidating right away. Sure, it's like rubbery and they don't show it like really running after you, like you said, like its tail, like whipping at you. But it is impressive. It looked pretty darn good. And when I got to see the movie for the first time, that's what I think like stuck with me the most at how good this looked for the budget they had. And I think it pays off.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, the monster at the end, it looks like a Troma version of a xenomorph. It's wet.
It's a good analogy.
It's fucked up. It's very angry. And it's going after all of the Cretans, but then it goes after Warren and Chrissy. And it gets Chrissy and starts dragging her toward it. And I'm like, oh, this is the scene, much like in Aliens, right? Spoiler alert. The monster realizes that Chrissy is its mother and it's going to let her go. And I said, please don't give us that. And thankfully, the movie said, no, fuck it. It's a monster. It wants to kill everyone.
Yeah, it does.
And that brings us, Big D, to the final scene, remodeling. While watching this scene, I was pausing, I shit you not, every 3 frames to find you in the crowd. I'm like, all right, I'm going to find this kid. I'm like, is he going to be tall? I'm doing the math. I'm like, he's probably like 12 years old. How tall would Big D be at that point? I'm looking around. I'm like, there's a black kid. That's a lady. Okay, what's going on? That's an old man. That's a fat guy. When you finally showed up, I realized I could have saved myself the trouble. Dick Ebert is so unmistakably Dick Ebert, even at 12 years old. You're doing kind of a side-by-side, like that side-to-side nervous stepping that you do when you don't know what to do with yourself. There's a little bit of eye rolling. And it made me realize, Big D, I've been unearthing a lot of these VHS tapes from my teen years and putting them on YouTube. And what I notice is that people don't really change. Like I look at my cousins, I look at myself. We're all just giant versions of our childhood selves. And you are goddamn adorable in this film.
Dude, do you like my members only jacket?
It's so
I think I chose that because I thought that was my best look.
It's a very good look.
Now, I don't know how that happened because people, if you haven't seen this, at the end, you have Chrissy and Warner. They're in the center of the camera. The school is blown up. They make the announcement, school's closed for remodeling. They start making out. I don't know how I ended up a 1.5 feet behind them.
Right there.
I am dead center in the camera. And as a kid, I don't remember seeing the camera. I just remember being like, oh my God, he's tongue kissing her. Just look at her. So as the camera's filming this, all you can see is my little eye, like peeking, trying to not watch the camera or the movie. I'm watching him put his tongue in her mouth.
That's what you're doing.
Yes.
I thought it was an eye roll.
No.
You're being a little little sneak.
Because I remember like the director was like, everybody jump, you're excited, jump, you're excited. But that stopped me from looking at them. So you can see I'm trying to look at them kissing. The director looks at me and tells me to jump. So I start jumping and I'm side-eyeing the kiss, trying to see what was going on, trying to learn a technique.
Now, Big D, I'm getting the sense from your comments on this film during this podcast that you might not be a big fan of it. So I want to take one last opportunity to kind of persuade you, make my final case. Gene Lyons, advocate for Troma. You previously have brought up the Trey Parker talk about how writers need to establish an A, therefore B through line. Gene needed to watch Class of Nuke Em High for the podcast. Therefore, he had to wait to play video games. So he had to play Stick of Truth until 1 a.m. Therefore, he didn't sleep well. Therefore, his immune system was weakened. Therefore, he woke up with a sore throat. Therefore, he went back to sleep. And therefore, he missed his morning meeting with Savannah. Sorry, Savannah. But Class of Nuke Em High does something radically different than A, therefore B, which sounds like it would be a disaster, but it oddly works. And stick with me. It says A happens and B happens, and you figure it out. As an example of that, in this movie, Spike, he speaks German to the German teacher and then makes out with her, which for some reason makes her strip off her clothes in the bathroom and paint her face and join his gang. There's no real causation there. We don't know if like Spike knows German because he's a former honor student. You got to make that up. You got to fanfic it. Does the teacher have a need to explore her wild side? Is she feeling repressed? I don't know. Is the kiss of the Cretans intoxicating? It makes you lose yourself. Nobody knows. They never explain it. You have to decide.
No, I think, because I do know the answer to that one.
Okay.
The German teacher was a friend of someone on set. They asked if she wanted to be in the scene. She happened to speak German. So then the lines that Spike actually says is you have the most beautiful blue eyes in the world. That's something to that effect is why she makes out with him. Does it make sense in the whole movie? No, but I think it's like what you said. Let's just be creative. Let's get what we can on film, and then we will make something of it. And I think that's admirable. And I think you're right. I do have to admire it. Low budget, creativity, being smart with your money, deciding what you could do, be fun, find your niche. I mean, we're talking about this movie 40 years later, and there's people who still go and watch these films in theaters, and people who like love this film and love all of the Troma stuff. It's, yes, there is something to admire about it, and I can't be too harsh on it. And I think I was going to be hard on it because in my mind, I built it up to something more. It's a fun movie. They had fun. People who watch have fun. So I should have fun, Gene. And I will try to have fun.
Embrace your inner Sandy.
Yes.
Now's the time in the podcast we give our Shat score for Class of Nuke Em High. The Shat scores are our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when she tells you she wants that joint. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It's missing the Fellini Film Festival. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Class of Nuke Em High?
So, Gene, I was going to go 4.85 wipes, but I'm changing it. I was going to go, I thought the only thing that was redeeming about it was my performance. It reminded me of a young Leonardo DiCaprio in Something's Eating Gilbert Grape.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Okay. It could have been a turning point, or a young Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense. It could have been my career. You've turned me on this. Okay. I'm going to go 3.5 wipes. It's worse than average, but for what it did with the budget, it embraced the quiche schlock. It had fun with the special effects. Everybody on set, actors enjoyed it. 40 years later, we're talking about it. Is it going to win an Oscar, Gene? No. Is it going to be something you'd want to sit down with your family and watch? No. But as a time capsule of 1986 and a moment in my life, yeah, I got to respect what they did. They did a lot with very little. 3.5 wipes.
I'm going to come in a little more favorable than that. No surprise. But a little behind the scenes first. This is the first movie that we have covered in nearly 9 years of doing this podcast that inspired viewers to write me unsolicited and apologize for me having to watch it. Like, people are like, I'm so sorry, Gene. I just watched it. Have you watched it yet? I'm sorry you had to watch it. Paul in Middlesbrough actually said he couldn't even finish it. He got 18 minutes of the movie and was like, I just couldn't. But Ronnie, if you're curious about this movie and haven't watched it yet, Class of Nuke 'Em High, it is stupid fun. It punches way above its weight class. And you see things in this movie that you just will not see in any other movie. And I think for that, it deserves 2 wipes. And with 2 wipes from me and 3.5 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.75 wipes for Class of Nuke 'Em High.
God, I'm already feeling guilt the other way. But I can't. They were having fun. I got to keep saying it to me. They were having fun. They were having
Just
fun.
kids.
They were just those kids, those crazy kids with their small budgets. And look at what they did, Gene. They did a great job. 2.75 wipes. I don't even want to see what this compares to because I already know it's going to be just a travesty and people are going to hate us. And believe it or not, it actually works out a little bit here. Okay, so that ties with the 2.75 wipes in the 249 spot with Rad, Notting Hill, Robot Jocks, and Kingpin. Kingpin should have been much better, but Roger Roper, that bastard, gave it a 4.5 wipe.
Whoa. Raj normally likes the comedies.
I don't know why, unless that's some kind of a coding error here on my...
He might have been having like a bad day or something.
I believe there was... I think he felt like it was lazy humor. You know, sometimes Roger would like to think he was highbrow and like he was... But who knows? Whatever. I think Rad, Notting Hill, and Robot Jocks, I think it fits perfect with that.
Totally agree.
Perfect with that. And I apologize to anyone who sits through this. If you want to, just go to the very end. Watch the last 4 minutes if you want to see me in my little members only jacket with my little bowl cut kind of swooped to the side and getting my first up close view of what it would be like to kiss a lady.
I think it's free on Peacock right now, guys. So you can go get it on Peacock and not have to pay for that 30 seconds of bliss.
I haven't gotten my fucking any residual checks.
You got this podcast.
Yes.
It prepared you for this. This long journey finally paid off.
It did.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, for your commission. Before we close out, we have some voicemail. The first one comes from Safety Dave calling in about Thief.
Hey, Shat crew, Safety Dave here. If I'm approaching the speak pipe, we know that I guess there's an encroaching holiday. It's Christmas Eve morning day. It's for me it's about 2:38 on Christmas Eve day. But I was listening to Thief. You guys just dropped some fresh Shat. And I was enjoying it. I was just like, I had better hit up the speak pipe. Every year I unintentionally injure myself by being cheap on Christmas. I'll be honest, Gene. I think you're safe and cheap, so I think you're going to appreciate this. But
frugal.
My girlfriend goes to visit her parents in New Mexico, and we have a special needs cat, and like going on one of these things, it's like $700-800 probably to have somebody watch the cat. And, just basic upkeep. You just kind of want to this is the reason why Jack Nicholson in fucking The Shining was like, they hired him you got to keep up your place, So just basic upkeep, fucking cat fees, airfare, right? Right. Fucking like $900 and shit. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay home this Christmas. But I needed a little boost. I was like, fuck, I'm all alone. It's Christmas Eve and Eve day, technically. And I was like, I just turned on Shat. I'm listening to Thief. Fucking great episode, guys. You guys still have it. I was like, are they going to lose it? Are these guys, they've been pushing it to the limit. They've been having to crank out some fucking podcasts, like a lot of podcasts and shit. And I was like, are they going to lose it? Are they going to? No, you didn't fucking lose it. You guys are fucking awesome. You're still coming through.
We lost them.
You took a while to get to the point, Dave. So sorry I got cut off. But if you have more thoughts and more flattery, please do call back in. I do want to take a minute to address something that Safety Dave touched on, though. Which is
my time is running short. I'm actually monitoring. It says max duration 3 minutes. So
what
I guess
was
it's time to say goodbye.
That son of a bitch. He baited us.
Hopefully not for good. Because it's a depressing Christmas. But I didn't get killed by the serial killer in my last voicemail, so that's good, right? So Merry Christmas. Love you guys. I love you, Shat Crew.
That was not 2 voicemails. That was
No.
1.
I don't know if Safety Dave got his audio cut like in there or something like that, or if that was if he's pulling a prank on us. I'm not
I
sure.
think he's pranking us.
Safety Dave calls back, listen, but no, we're glad you're still alive, Safety Dave. But you touched on something that was really interesting, which was saying that we still got it. And one of the things I've been reflecting on, we had a little bit of time off over the holidays to, just kind of listen to episodes, reflect, not record anything. And one of the things that really stood out to me was we get this pressure in our own heads, I think, to be funny. You got to be on, right? And sometimes the conversation doesn't necessarily go there. And so you try to force it. And that's when we get bad pod. And I think one of the things that Big D and I have kind of developed over the years is that you come into the podcast just wanting to talk about the topic. If something funny occurred to you while you were watching the movie or researching the movie, it's cool to bring it up. And if it doesn't go anywhere, that's totally fine. But it doesn't need to be yuck yuck all the time. And I think that gives every episode a little bit of a different complexion, right? I did not think going into Thief that Thief was going to be a particularly funny episode. Turned out to be. There are movies that we've done that are hilarious movies that I thought were going to make great episodes. And they were good episodes, but they weren't hilarious episodes. They were just kind of quietly funny. And I'm glad that Big D, this is turned into what we really wanted this podcast to turn into. It was just a moment to reconnect every week, be in the mood that we're in that day, have the feelings we have about the movie that day, and not try to manufacture fun. Let the fun happen naturally.
No, whether we're sick, whether we're tired from work, whether we're stressed at the job or with our lives, it's nice to be able to have this moment of quiet and to connect with each other and with the audience. And it's something I still appreciate this many years later.
We have an email about Thief now coming from Eric N, who says, "Hi, Shatters. It seems like your math was wrong for Thief. 2.25 plus 1.25 equals 3.5 wipes. 3.5 wipes divided by 2 equals 1.75 wipes. You indicated it was a 1.675 wipes. Please let me know if I got something wrong. Oh, and here's my spreadsheet." He showed the work. Thanks for all the great episodes, Eric. And Eric, I did go back and check. You are absolutely correct. I listened to the podcast. It was a math error on my part. So Thief is, you are correct, 1.75 wipes, not 1.675 wipes.
Well, I'll defend Gene in that because a lot of times, like, we'll put in our scores. And like today, you'll have a conversation. You might be swayed in either direction. So sometimes, it's easy to make mistakes, Gene. But so now I'm going to tell you where that Thief now is tied in the 138 spot with I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, Friday, Drop Dead Gorgeous, Halloween 4, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Slightly worse than before, but still in that like 140 zone. Respectable.
I think we should just go to only round numbers.
Yeah, I thought your head was going to explode when I was going to give this 4.85.
I really wanted to hear the reasoning.
Oh, just because at that point I was really down on the movie. I was feeling bad that I'd made you watch it. I was thinking, listen, Gene's going to, he's got to sit through this and just for that last couple seconds. And it was dragging on and on. I think it was a lot of pressure I put because I was, part of the cast.
I mean, maybe the decongestants helped me appreciate the movie, though. Maybe I was having some weird boner hallucination and thought it was a better movie than it actually was. But either way, it worked.
You had some of that atomic high.
Mm-hmm. All right, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, a year after his heroics in L.A., Detective John McClane is mixed up with another terrorist plot, this time at Washington Dulles International Airport, where he's waiting for his wife. That same night, South American political and drug profiteer Ramon Esperanza is arriving in U.S. custody. McClane takes action when a treasonous ex-colonel seizes control of the airport, threatening to crash every inbound flight unless Esperanza's free. Commissioned by John W., came out in 1990, Gene, and it's about time. We're going to start getting back on our theme song, back on the mission, and I think everybody knows what this film is.
Well, John, thank you for your second commission of the month. Thank you, Ronnie, for your commission. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. You can find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, Check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
Listen, honey, when you land, can we check into a hotel or leave the kids with your parents? Order some room service?
You're on, Lieutenant.
I'll see you in about a half an hour, honey.
Jingle bell rock.
Christmas Eve.
Is there a cop on duty around here?
Airport police.
Go get him.
Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Washington, D.C. International Airport.
What's this about?
Oh, just a feeling I have.
Ouch. When you get those feelings, insurance companies start to go bankrupt.
The towers lost control.
Instrument landing system is down.
Backup systems won't come up. We've got blizzard conditions. Zero visibility.
Attention all controllers. We have a code red alert.
There's panic in the air.
This is a professional mercenary. You got the world's biggest drug dealer on his way here now. What do you need, a slide rule to figure this out?
You get the hell out of my office before I throw you out of my damn airport.
And terror on the ground.
Who is this?
Who I am is unimportant. What I want is very important.
Oh, we are just up to our neck in terrorists again, John.
But for police officer John McClane,
Damn it, I hate it when I'm right.
it's just another Christmas.
You're the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Story of my life.
Caught ourselves maybe 2 hours. After that, those planes low on fuel aren't going to be circling. They're going to be dropping on the White House lawn.
Any attempt to restore your systems will be met by severe penalties.
Somebody out there. It's McClane.
Wife's plane, they're going to run out of fuel in 90 minutes.
What are you gonna do?
Whatever I can.
Last time, it blew you through the back wall of the theater.
Not a cowboy ride too rough?
I don't like to fly.
What are you doing here?
I don't like to lose either.
This time, it'll blow you sky high.
That's what you expected?
No. This is just the beginning.
On July 4th, Die Harder. Bruce Willis, Die Hard 2.
Yeah, and the effects. Sorry. Yeah, and the effects I thought were. Sorry. Yeah, and the effects I thought they were. Okay, yeah,